Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
The game eve, gentlemen, the game eve. I figured I would let that play for just a hair longer than normal, get a full verse in there. I know everybody is hoping that we hear that a lot, over and over and over again on repeat tomorrow. But, before we started, Trent couldn't even wait. He just immediately, I invited you guys into the studio, and Trent's like, how do we feel? How do we feel about tomorrow? I think there's a massive sense of that kind of running through the Michigan fan base. Everybody is very intrigued, very excited, very curious. Chris, we had a pretty honest conversation with ourselves earlier in the week about how confident we felt about this thing at the beginning of the year, midway point versus now. And I think that does create, I can't even explain how much intrigue that creates for tomorrow's game. And I don't know if this is related at all, but you kind of said last minute that you thought of something that you thought would be a great starting point for us.
Well, I saw something. I saw something before I was going, before we decided to go live here. I was kind of scrolling through social media, and I don't know who it was that put out the video, but it showed, various Ohio State guys walking to the team bus or whatever. And one Kyle McCord walking to the bus with a rather noticeable limp. So I'm not sure how that's going to play into tomorrow's game. It wasn't something that, it wasn't Michigan fans just pushing it. Like Ohio State fans were pretty aware that he was limping as well. So we'll see how that factors in. I know we've talked pretty extensively about JJ McCarthy and what he's got going on. I already see people in the comments saying he's faking it. He's trying to put on. I don't know that that's the case, but again, I don't think there's any shortage of interesting storylines going into this game, but, a few seconds before we go live, seeing Kyle McCord limp to the bus, that's just another interesting layer, something to keep your eye on tomorrow.
Is this the college equivalent of Joe Burrow gate? The wrist wrap, another Ohio guy down there. Yeah. Ohio can't keep it together.
Are we calling Burrow? Well, yeah, I guess. He is an Ohio guy.
He's an Ohio guy, yeah. Before he went down to LSU, he's from Ohio, obviously.
He's an Ohio guy, but is he a Buckeye? I think.
And now, I think that's debatable. And now he's back in Cincinnati, so yeah, he's pretty much an Ohio guy.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's wrist means more than Kyle McCord's leg because he can't run anyway.
That's fair.
The Buckeyes might be better off without Kyle McCord. Who knows? I don't think even if he was to go out, who's the backup, by the way?
Well, it was Devin Brown, and then
Devin Brown
playing that freshman a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, it's not one of those things where like, oh Jesus, if Justin Fields goes down, Michigan's odds go way up. I don't see Kyle McCord as that, but again, something interesting to keep your eye on tomorrow as the game goes on. Everybody's obviously, somewhat aware of what we've been talking about with JJ McCarthy and possibly what he's dealing with there. Now it looks like Kyle McCord might be working through something as well.
Was this like a leak? Like how the photo of Joe Burrow's hand was way in the background?
No,
or was this public?
This was somebody who just put out a video, said QB1 on his way to the bus, getting ready for the trip to Ann Arbor. And as he was walking, I know the difference between walking with swag and walking with an injury. And this was walking with an injury. For sure.
All right, couple of housekeeping things to take care of. First, AJ Cooper, first out of the gate with the donation. Appreciate it. Chris with the full glass of the Man-Mosa tonight tells him exactly how he's feeling. Chris, is that indicative of your attitude right now?
Yeah, I feel a little uneasy going into this one.
Okay.
I feel like normally over the last 2 years, I've felt in 2021 it was kind of like a fuck it, what do you got to lose? You've lost the last 8 anyway, and you sort of go in, you think you got a good team, and 2022, it was, kind of felt a little bit nervous on the road. This one, I feel a lot of anxiety because there's so much on the line. And I feel like this team I feel more emotionally connected to this team than I probably have in years past, just given the fact that, you watch a lot of these guys come in, been covering these guys over the last 2 years. For about 40 of them, it's probably going to be their last game inside of Michigan Stadium. So, everybody understands the implications. You win, you go to Indy, and you're probably in the Final Four in the college football. No, probably about it. You're in the Final Four in the college football playoff. And if you lose, you're watching from home. You're watching the Big Ten championship from home, and you're most likely out of the college football playoff. And I think the idea that that's even a possibility after the way this season has gone, to be at 11-0 and for as dominant as they've looked. And I mean, they've been, I think they started off in the AP poll number 2. They actually might still be number 2 in the AP poll. I haven't really paid attention to that much lately, but you're talking about a top 5 team all year. And you just, you hope with everything you have that it equates to a W tomorrow, because anything outside of that would be brutal, man. I think everybody would feel it.
This is totally random and out over the skis a bit, because obviously the game tomorrow is front and center, and with good reason. But and Chris, you just made me think of it. I asked my dad earlier, we were kind of BSing about the game back and forth and some stuff. And Chris, you just said it, like, oh, the Big Ten championship and definitely playoff and blah, blah, blah. What if whoever wins, Michigan or Ohio State, wins tomorrow and then loses in the Big Ten? I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. Did you see Iowa today, by the way? The over-under was 25.5 and the under.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What would happen, though? Is that would people just be like, dude, if you can't beat Iowa, you do not deserve to go to the playoff? Like, I don't care that that's your only loss. It was in the title game, blah, blah, blah. Like, what happens if that does somehow occur, which we all know that it won't?
What do you think, Trent?
I don't think a Big Ten team would get in. I mean, if Ohio State or Michigan beat or whoever wins tomorrow and they lose to Iowa, I think more chaos would need to happen for a Big Ten team to get in, period.
The crazy thing is if that happens, the team that doesn't make it to the Big Ten championship has the better resume, because their loss would be to a far better team.
Yeah.
Which is why, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen.
You got a lot of teams near the top. I mean, you've got, Alabama sort of hanging out there, just on the outside looking in, kind of want to see what's going on with Florida State. You've got Oregon playing a big game tonight. I believe they play Friday night. So we'll see what happens there. So there's certainly a lot that can happen. And I think the result of this weekend will help that picture obviously become more clear. But again, as it pertains to Michigan and Ohio State, for all the reasons I just mentioned, and then on top of that, the last year of the East and West divisions, the last year of the 4-team college football playoff. I mean, it's just, there's not going to be another game like this in the near future. This rivalry is always going to matter. It's always going to mean a lot. Trent, you've got an animal there about ready to tear apart your Culpepper jersey.
You just want to say hi to everybody.
It's not that it's not going to matter in the future, but in terms of the weight it's going to carry and the implications of what it's going to mean if you win or lose this game, we're not going to have what we have this year. This is kind of the last year for it. And with everything that's been going on with the Michigan football program, not on the field, but off the field, obviously, it just feels like this is one that they got to get the W.
I was looking down at my phone. Chris is like, there's an animal about to tell. I'm like, wait, what? Look at him. He's going in.
Dude, it is.
Oh my gosh.
Get this Viking stuff out of here is what he's saying. Do we get to learn?
He's a major fan. He's a major Vikings fan.
Is the cat's name Dante?
Culpepper.
Is it? It's Culpepper. Wow.
He had a 50-50 shot there.
That's phenomenal. All right, another quick thing here. Clayton, thank you for the donation. Unleash Samaj. I think we will see a good bit of him. His usage has been going up week after week, and he's clearly effective. So I think that that's probably a good thought. And last but not least, if we get any more super chats, we'll obviously address them. Sugar Daddy, if you're in the building, just wanted to call out the name, throw it out there. You gave us a large donation Wednesday. And we skipped over it because I just was running through the comments, I guess. And I want to make sure we give you your props. So if you want to jump in, throw a comment in, a question, whatever it might be. Because I think Trent, you reminded us all he wanted us to do was practice saying his name.
Yeah.
Remember we were doing we were doing the name pronunciation thing at that point. It was that moment of the show, so I don't think it was a huge deal, but it was a big donation, so we wanted to throw that out there. So thank you for that, Sugar Daddy, wherever you are, if you're not in the room. There's Chris Fields, almost always has something for us. Whoops, clicked the wrong one there. Sorry, hold on a minute there. There you go. Only thing to do is emotionally hedge the bet, just like you do. Look, man, you're not alone in that. Your money equals Ohio State with the numbers. You'd happily lose that bet and take a little hit on your wallet to have Michigan win the game and come out with a huge W. So yeah, that's a pretty smart thing whenever Michigan plays. You kind of throw a little money on the opponent just in case, and then you're happy. You're at least it dulls the pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it would do. It'll dull the pain a little bit. If Michigan loses, you'll be distraught, but at least you can go get a steak or something, Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what you try to do.
What does that mean? We got a shout out on
I was looking at
Bucknuts this morning. What's that all about? I don't even know what Bucknuts is.
Oh, that's
like
one
a
of the. I think that's the 24/7 site. Yeah, Zach, if you would like to expand on that, because I didn't see that. I don't even know what happened there. That'd be great. I'm sure they loved something that we said. I don't know. I'm sure.
The fact that Kyle McCord is soft, not very good.
I'm sure it wasn't.
Replaceable.
They were giving us props for telling the truth.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'd be all right with that.
Tends to work. It's always a good course of action to take. Good direction. Just say it like you feel it.
Keep it like it is, man. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've said all along that I do feel like Michigan we all said it, that this is closer now than we thought it would be. I think we'll get to we'll get to our predictions, and we're all pretty close again for the third or fourth week straight. We don't have very much variation in our score prediction, but we will get to that here momentarily. So there you go. All right. You guys want to call me dumb, or
let's do that. Let's do it.
All right. Trent, by the way, I texted the group earlier, and I was like, oh, I don't even know how Trent responded so fast that he wanted to call me dumb that I don't like. There's no way the text had even received him yet. I think he was just going to tell me that anyway. But no. So we're shortening everything up a bit because there are three of us. So I've got three specific predictions for the game. These guys will tell me if I'm dumb or smart. And then we each have three over-unders to talk about for a little bit. And, of course, if you guys have anything that you'd like us to address or ask, please throw it in the comments. We'll do our best to get to it if we have time. Brandon built, there's worse things to be built for. We got a great face for radio. That's what they say, right? Anyway, all right. Here's my first one. Am I dumb or am I smart? Because if you guys recall, I believe Donovan Edwards had 2 rushes of more than 75 yards last year against Ohio State. I'm not going that crazy, but I think that Donovan Edwards will have a touchdown of more than 40 yards. 40 yards. Am I dumb or am I smart?
Trent, you want to start us off?
Well, I would like to know what his longest run is this year, but either way, I'm going to say
it might be that 22 from last week, honestly.
I don't think it's been 40. I'm going to call you dumb on that one. I just, man, I don't know. It seems like he's been breaking out a little bit more lately, but I don't see him breaking a super long, big one like he did last year. And I do think the Michigan run, which I'll go on a little bit later, but I do think the rushing game will be effective, but I don't see like a long run from Dono.
Yeah, I'm going to go dumb as well. We've been waiting to see Donovan Edwards break out all year. We've seen kind of glimpses of it here and there. Haven't seen anything really quite to that extent. And, if anybody does it, my money's on Blake Corum, just for all the reasons that we talked about before. He's senior, last game in the big house. It's his birthday. He's finally healthy in this rivalry. I think we're going to have a big afternoon from number 2. Would love to see number 7 go off, similar to what he did last year. I mean, that was an incredible experience, being down there on the field, watching him break through, which was just a gaping hole in the Michigan offensive line. Obviously Edwards is the kind of guy, once he gets out in the open field, not a guy that's easy to catch. So, and I think that's kind of the difference between him and Corum. Not to take anything away from Blake Corum, but Blake Corum doesn't quite have the top end speed. So if Donovan Edwards can break free and get loose, would love to see it. But I'm going to go with dumb. I think the guy that's going to be breaking off the big runs tomorrow is going to be number 2.
And if you saw the comment, I threw it up there. Thank you, Richard Riggs, for finding that. Yes, 22 is Donovan Edwards long on the season. So that's considerable.
Isn't
that's
that
a considerable
crazy?
bump. That is.
I mean, but
That much talent and speed.
It's not. But if you watch, like, I'm not going to put it all on the offensive line. There's no doubt that some of that's on Donovan Edwards and his, decision making, how tough you're going to run between the tackles, on and on and on. But it's often when he takes the ball, almost within a split second, there's a hand on him or somebody right there, and he's having to create immediately. And we're not seeing the kind of big holes that we saw last year against Ohio State, where Edwards gets the ball and he's got, about 10 feet of space to work with in the line there. So I think it's a little bit of part A, a little bit part B, but at the end of the day, I think tomorrow's game is going to require tough running in between the tackles, and I think it's just going to kind of be a slugfest. That's how both teams are built.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. This is a good question. Derek, thank you for the Derek Thomas, RIP, the late great Chiefs linebacker. Anyway,
Well,
Derek
not
Thomas,
RIP to
not this one, but just the name. When is the game banner? Oh yeah. When is Jim Harbaugh allowed to be back on the premises or around his team or in the stadium? Or I've even would he be allowed to do the press conference once the game's? I don't even know how that would work. I've thought about this because this is one of the things that we'll obviously be covering and dealing with tomorrow. If Michigan gets a massive win, can Harbaugh be out there on the field with his guys once the clock hits 0? Can he do the post-game press conference? Have either of you guys heard anything or given any thought to this? Does it matter to you? I mean, what's the thoughts on that question? Because I think it is going to be part of the day at some point.
I've thought about it. And to my knowledge, from reading stuff, it sounds like he just cannot be on the field. Well, he can't be in the stadium period during the game, correct? But if he's right outside the stadium, I don't see why he couldn't go on the field or do the press conference. The game's over.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting because this is the first suspension from the Big Ten game that he's been suspended where he's going to be in Ann Arbor. It was at Penn State and at Maryland, so it will be interesting to see how they handle it. I would be honestly surprised. Look, if Michigan goes out and gets the W, I would be surprised to see Jim Harbaugh walk through those doors for the press conference. I think he's good. He seems like the kind of guy that would want Sharon Moore to be able to soak in that moment and kind of have that all to himself. And maybe you'll see video come out after the fact of Harbaugh in the locker room celebrating with the team. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I've heard people make all kinds of wild suggestions for where he should be and how it should be covered on Saturday. But my hunch is you probably won't see or hear much from him until after the game.
Yeah, I don't think he would actually do it either, but I think that technically he probably could once that clock hits 0.
Yeah, I was gonna say we know he doesn't love that. It's not his favorite thing to do.
Down the tunnel and run to the field like he's Ric Flair. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, do a tunnel run
maybe with Ric Flair. Who knows?
There you go.
Isn't it weird that we live in a time, by the way, where that's not really out of the realm of possibility? Jim Harbaugh
at all
running to the game after it's over with Ric Flair to go celebrate on the field. I mean, that's not the most unlikely thing that could happen on Saturday, and that's crazy.
He signs his extension at midfield on the logo.
Yeah,
there you go.
That is wild. Oh, I think I skipped over a super chat. I apologize for that, JP. How does missing Ransom affect Ohio State? Well, obviously he's one of their.
Wasn't he missing last year?
I was gonna say he was on the field. He was missing in the frame a couple times, but I mean, that's a talented kid. I think back to when he was recruited, Michigan wanted him pretty bad. So this is a talented kid, but he did get burnt a couple times last year against Michigan, and look, he's their starter for a reason. Anytime a starter is not in the lineup, you're gonna feel it. But this is the thing with places like Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama. That you just put another talented kid out there. Probably doesn't have as much experience, hasn't been out on the field like Lathan Ransom has, but he's going to be a good player. And so I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's a reason he's the starter. So if you take him off the field, you would think that's a slight positive for Michigan, right? I mean, that's the rational way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
anytime you're down a starter, I agree. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's it works to Michigan's advantage. Just like I know we're dogging on Kyle McCord a little bit, and I saw somebody in the comment. Yes, I know that Ransom played last year, just kind of being a little bit of a dick about it.
Yeah,
But
he was on the field.
yeah, anytime you can be down a starter, I mean, it's certainly going to be to the advantage of the other team. But I think just like Michigan, Ohio State's pretty loaded. They've got they're not starving for talent down there in Columbus. And, if he's unable to go, I think they'll have somebody else that's ready to step in and be effective. And again, I mean, that's what's so great about what we're going to see tomorrow, presumably, is that it's two teams that are really, really good, that don't have a ton of weaknesses. This is essentially national championship part A that we all get to see live and in person tomorrow for those that are going to be there. And I think, if they're down one or two starters, I think that they'll have plenty of guys that are ready to step up and be productive.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Chris. Ransom's a starter, so obviously he must be the best that they have at that position. But Ohio State has so much talent too. So whoever steps in for him, they're going to be able to play. But I mean, yeah, and if you're missing a starter, then it should be a positive for Michigan.
I mean, just do the same thing with Michigan. If you had to take Rod Moore out and play any other, like it's a guy that Keon Sabb, like him, but he hasn't played as much. He's certainly not as ready. He's certainly not as experienced and prepared. But talented, another talented player. That's how it would be. I mean, that's the kind of thing you'd much rather have your starting veteran guy back there, but you'll make do with whatever talented player you have behind them. One of my favorite usernames and user pictures. Thank you again, Urban Meyer's right hand. Notre Dame had success throwing the ball over the middle with its tight ends. Does Michigan do the same? He figures that it could keep the linebackers on their heels, and the run game finds room to run. Look, I love that thought. A.J. Barner, Colston Loveland, certainly capable. But yeah, it's all about what Michigan wants to do. What kind of message are they trying to send? What kind of a scheme are they trying to get into? What kind of things are they trying to take advantage of? Your guess is as good as mine, but the thought makes sense. Michigan's got two really, really good tight ends, and if you can utilize them against Ohio State with success, then do it until they stop it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about tomorrow is the unknown. We talked about this earlier in the week. We've seen Michigan throw it nearly 40 times with JJ McCarthy. We've seen Michigan run it 32 straight times, to win a football game, and so I'm really curious to see how the flow of the game sort of works itself out and what Michigan ultimately settles into. And that's the case for both teams. What's it going to take to win that game? Are you going to have to, rely on JJ McCarthy and his arm and his legs to get out and create, and the mobility and the athleticism there? Or are you going to be able to line up and just run it behind an NFL caliber offensive line all afternoon, similar to what we've seen against Ohio State, over the last 2 years? I know last year, the passing game was a little bit more involved, but man, back in 2021, Hassan Haskins, 5 touchdowns in a single game, set the rivalry record. I don't know that we'll see anything like that on Saturday, but yeah, certainly Colston Loveland, A.J. Barner, seeing those guys get involved in the passing game, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. I think that it's one of the beauties of this Michigan football team is there's a number of different directions they can go, number of different ways they can hurt you, and it's just a matter of seeing what's going to work best on Saturday.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is I think this is going to be the best tight end duo Ohio State has seen all year. So if you can utilize that, go for it, man. I think everyone wants to see a little more JJ. And if he can get into the flow rhythm a little bit better using the tight ends early, I think he could have a really good day.
Yeah, I mean, Loveland's had a good year, but not as good as I thought he would, frankly. Yeah, I mean, I think all of us would probably be on that same page. I mean, he's been really good at times, but there's been other times where he hasn't been a big part of the offense. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. Clock hits 0. Harbaugh runs down the tunnel and beelines to Ryan Day. Superman punch, double birds. Probably not.
And then he retires and goes to the NFL. I mean,
hey,
on leaving next year, he still wants to coach in the Big Ten championship. Yeah. So no, AJ Cooper, probably not going to see that happen.
Thank you for that though, AJ.
On my bingo card.
And then Clayton 2424. Putting Harbaugh up on the big board. I mean, I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know if Harbaugh would want that.
Listen, Can
Wow.
we just get the video of him? You remember the Big Ten championship game, I think it was, where he was staring at the referee very closely because the ref had the hat cam on and was looking. Yes, can we just get that on the? That would be perfect. That's all we need. People seem to love that. But yeah, man, I mean, you can tell, you can see it. A lot of people. It sucks that he's not going to be in the stadium on Saturday. He's such a big part of Michigan football. And, you know, when you think about Michigan, Ohio State, the rivalry, Ryan Day is going to be there. The idea that Jim Harbaugh is not going to be in the stadium on Saturday, if you'd told me that going into the season, I would have been just as bummed then as I am now. I think it's a huge bummer for everybody, players included.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I think you verbalized it pretty clearly about, you know, missing the 1,000th win at Maryland, and then you take this one away and the huge game against Penn State. I mean, it's a
kick in the dick. The Big Ten really hit him below the belt here, and it's
dude, Juwan Howard really just got ejected from that game, not even coaching.
Well,
Are you serious?
Yes, I saw somebody put it in the comments, and I thought they were just messing around, and I looked it up, and
What?
yes, ejected,
Oh my god.
ejected. Bro,
well, the good news is it's
right.
it's Ohio State week, so
it's Ohio State
no
Eve.
offense to
Yeah,
the
let's.
Michigan men's basketball team, but
Good Lord.
couldn't care less right now.
Oh, baby, Juwan Howard, just the gift that keeps on giving. Anyway, all right, I think that we did get. If we're gonna keep getting these, I'm gonna keep reading them. So I do appreciate it, people. If you're gonna donate us a little bit of money just to read these comments, I'll keep doing it. We do have some other stuff to get to, but here we go. Another one from Urban Meyer's right hand. If Michigan wins, Coach Moore's first two words in the that's 3 words. Where's Lou Holtz? First words. Okay, I thought it said first 2 words. My bad. Where's Lou Holtz? Yeah, that would be a nice troll. Lou Holtz, what if he's there? Will he talk to Ryan Day?
Well, I think Lou Holtz has been kind of a dick about the whole Michigan thing
Yeah,
too. So I don't know that he's very popular in Michigan circles these days either.
Yeah. Oh boy.
How about Aiden Hutchinson though, joining the
That's
college
pretty cool.
game day set? Going to be there with Desmond Howard. I think. Look, ESPN certainly doing everything they can to bring the Michigan faithful out after their shitty coverage over the last few weeks. They're going to have Desmond there. They're going to have Aiden Hutchinson as a celebrity guest picker. It's certainly an intriguing option to want to go visit that set if you're a Michigan football fan.
I saw something. I don't know what the full quote was, but I saw Kirk Herbstreit said something about how he's tired of people and his network picking on Michigan. Like I said, I don't know what the full quote was, but I did see that.
Yeah, well, it's nice. It's nice when those guys that are still at the network, the voices of reason, when they come out and actually have a reasonable take, a good take. I tend to think Joel Klatt has a lot of good takes, but he seems to be pretty pro Michigan, which is probably the reason I think a lot of his takes are good. But even he recently, he was talking about the whole sign stealing thing, and he said flat out, he's, for anybody that knows the game of football, they haven't made a really big deal out of this. It's people who typically don't know about the game of football and don't know how things work that have the biggest issue with it. And I think that's pretty accurate. And when you look at the personalities on ESPN, look, I don't know what Paul Feinbaum did back in the day, but he wasn't a D1 recruit. Dude wasn't out making plays on the field. Stephen A. Smith, dude wasn't a football player, but the guys that are the loudest about it seem to have the smallest knowledge when it comes to the game of football.
Dude, and Stephen A. Smith, he's all pro football, pro basketball. I don't even think he even watches much college.
He doesn't give a shit.
No.
His job is to say whatever he can as loud as he
Loud as
can,
he can.
so that it will get picked up by people like us, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, he's getting the job done then.
that
He
is
is
pretty
getting
much.
he's very effective. Same thing
Yeah.
with Paul Feinbaum. If Paul Feinbaum isn't going after Michigan on a regular basis, how relevant is he? Nobody's even talking about the dude. Nobody wants to hear football commentary from somebody that looks like that. And he's a bald brethren. I mean,
Now
I'm supposed to advocate for guys like Paul Feinbaum, but he made the biggest mistake. He grew out the horseshoe. Paul, see, when you see somebody who grows it out, cuts it, styles it, that's a red flag. That's an issue. And anybody out there who's got the baldness, the horseshoe thing going on, like, you got to get rid of that lower part. You can't keep the lower part.
That guy is built for the booth. Period.
He is very much built for the booth.
And has a phenomenal face for radio.
Yes.
Like that's part of the issue that you're talking about, Chris. Like, you see, if you just heard him, be like, well, I'll listen. But you see him and you're like, no, No, this guy's not relevant.
This guy doesn't know shit about
No.
sports.
There's no way. All right, number 2. Let's see if you guys want to call me dumb or smart here. We all know what's been going on with JJ to some degree. We don't really know exactly what's going on, but he's not 100%. He's talked about it. The coaches have talked about it. But JJ McCarthy will rush for at least 20 yards against the Buckeyes. Now, keep in mind, sacks go against the rush total. So, if he's sacked a few times, that really digs into that number. But will rush for at least 20 positive yards with his legs, even though he's dealing with something. Fellas.
I like it.
Okay.
So going to the sack thing, Ohio State only has 21 sacks this year, and they're 86 in the nation.
What?
So it's not like they get home.
Trent dropping some
Yeah.
knowledge.
They don't get home super well, So I like it. Even if he has a little bit of a bum ankle, I think he can use his legs for at least 20 yards. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to do whatever they need to do to make sure that he feels good for the game. And I do think that his mobility is going to come in handy on Saturday. I think they're going to need it. I think they're going to need him to get outside the tackles, make things happen with his legs. And I mean, shit, he can get that on one play. Now, I get that the sacks work against him. But look, I think this offensive line is due for a really, really good game. And I can't think of a better time to do it than, you look at the guys up front, Drake Nugent, Trevor Keegan, Zach Zinner, Carson Barnhart, all guys that are, Miles Hinton, likely playing their last game at Michigan Stadium. I can't think of a better way to go out than to keep your quarterback clean all afternoon. And so I think JJ is going to get over that 20-yard mark, no doubt.
Yeah, this comes down to basically how hurt do you think he is? Because it's not a big number. It's not 20 yards, and I didn't even realize that Ohio State didn't get to the quarterback that well. You hear about their guys. JT Tui Olumau, or however you say his name, was a number 1 recruit. Some of the other defensive ends they've had have been high profile recruits. You'd think they'd be getting tons of pressure on the quarterback, but Trent's number coming through with the facts says otherwise. So if
JTT has 4.5.
there you go. Yeah, that's not a dominant number, and so that's a great point, Eric. They are not the athletes that Penn State's edge rushers are. Not even close. I mean, all 3 of those dudes for Penn State will be playing on Sunday. Now, I would assume that Ohio State's probably will too, but they're different kinds of guys. JT's a bigger dude. Who's the guy on the other end? His name is escaping me right now. The other Sawyer. Yes. Also like a big dude, not a super twitchy, fast 40 kind of guy. So different kinds of players. And I think JJ will get loose a little bit and eclipse that mark as well. And last but not least, and I think this is big, Michigan being the home team, starting however they start, whether it's with the coin toss or just the flow of the game or the script, Michigan will not trail tomorrow. Thoughts on Michigan not trailing in the game?
Go ahead, Trent. I'll let you lead off.
Man, I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but I don't like it.
These are the good ones. These are the good ones.
Dude,
You had to put money on it, Trent. Which way's your money going? Take the emotion out of it. How do you think it's going to play out?
Okay. I'm going to say Michigan will trail at some point in time in the game.
So I'm dumb.
Yeah, I'm going to go with dumb too. I do think Michigan is going to trail. I do expect to have that oh shit feeling in the pit of my stomach, similar to what I had last year in Columbus. But at the end of the day, we'll get to the score prediction. I do think Michigan's gonna pull it out. But yeah, I certainly see a scenario where they're trailing in this game. In fact, I don't know how many times it's happened, but we've seen it with Michigan against Rutgers and against, lesser teams where they come out of the gate, they get the opening score, and then Michigan clamps down, particularly in the second half. Yeah, exactly, Brandon Johnson. That's kind of what I'm alluding to. And so I do think that will be the case on Saturday. I would prefer to see Michigan not get off to a slow start and not trail early. We talked about this earlier in the week. I fully believe Michigan's got to score the first touchdown in the game for me to feel really good about the direction things are going. But yeah, I think they're going to trail in the first half.
Yeah, this was one that I just kind of thought. I don't know if I even believe it. I might call myself dumb on this one. I don't know, but I felt like it's exactly what Chris said. The feeling last year in Columbus when Ohio State jumped out pretty quickly and without much resistance, it was just like, oh man,
Crowd was electric.
yeah, dude,
stadium was just lit.
This is a different animal here in Columbus than it was last year in Ann Arbor, thinking that last year. And so I think that's, I think it's big, but at the same time, Michigan did take that punch right on the chin last year, and it did not phase them.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of the same guys back, a year older, back at home. So if Michigan does trail, I don't think it's a big deal. I know, Chris, you just said that would give you that oh shit feeling like, oh, dude, they got to get. But I don't think the players and the coaches will feel that way.
No, certainly. I mean, they're veterans. They're elite in every sense of the word. They're not some dink on the sideline holding the camera. As a fan, I will be concerned for sure if Ohio State goes up early. But that's the nature of the beast. That's how you know you're alive. That's what this is all about. Like, if you could choose, I mean, I'll ask you both this. If you could choose a Michigan blowout where it's not even like from start to finish, it's not even interesting, or you watch these two teams go back and forth afternoon and Michigan comes out on top in the end, what would you rather see as a Michigan fan?
Usually I want to see a good
I want a
competitive
blowout.
game. But when we're talking about Ohio State, I want a blowout.
Yeah,
you want a thorough ass beating?
Yes, dude.
Yeah, 63-0, call it a day.
Dude,
What if you're going to have people saying, well, how good was Ohio State really? They weren't really that good. No.
Send Ryan Day back hurting where people are definitely want him fired.
Here's what I'll say is I agree to a certain extent, but then we've also talked about how you watch all these Michigan games throughout the season. They're destroying their opponents. It makes for a long afternoon. I get, destroying Ohio State's a little bit different, but we usually watch that and then we come home, we watch the later games at night, and you watch teams out in the SEC like duking it out. And it's just this incredible, exciting game. And, you kind of miss that a little bit as a fan. You kind of want to be in those games a little bit as a fan.
But listen, take last year's margin of victory. Was it 22, right? A 22-point win over Ohio State feels so much different than a 22-point win over Illinois. It's the same amount of points, but if Michigan can absolutely just dominate Ohio State, like that feels unreal is what it feels like. The last 2 years have felt like, wow, nobody saw this coming. How did they do that? Like, that's incredible. Yeah. So I get your point, Chris. I do
agree. They do not want an exciting game on Saturday. They don't want it to be close. They want it to be an ass whooping. I get it. I understand. And I think if I could push a button, I would prefer that. Like, I wouldn't want a close game without knowing what the outcome was going to be. If I knew for sure Michigan was going to win it, I would love to see just, something similar to what we saw in 2016, double overtime, like both teams just duking it out, like an instant classic to me. Like, those are games that you can't wait to watch back on, on replay and something like that. But I would have to know that Michigan was going to come out on top to accept that.
That's fair. Like, a W in those games certainly makes it go down easier. That's the difference. Clayton 2-4-2.
You would like to watch a 63-0 blowout, and
also would be
come
fine
home and get on social media, and
would be fine.
Yeah. Clayton 2-4-2-4 again coming through. Appreciate you, man. 2021 saw the arguments, the scuffle in the tunnel, ripping off the helmet, Roman laying in the end zone, the lineman coming up like 1,000 pounds of dudes coming at that DB. With all that stuff going on, are we guaranteed to see emotional outbursts this year? I just think yes, like always. I don't think it has anything to do with it's Michigan, Ohio State. Like, you go back a couple years, the lineman gets kicked out, he's flipping off the crowd as he leaves. Is this, there's always something, right? I mean, that's not going to change.
Yeah, it's the game. There's all kinds of emotions, both teams. There's bound to be something that happens.
I mean, that was I remember that clip of the the Roman Wilson situation where it was like 2 or 3 offensive linemen. Trevor Keegan was right there, just came running over, got in the dude's face immediately. Like, that's when it kind of felt like you knew that Michigan it had flipped. Michigan's mentality, like, we're going to be the bully in this rivalry. You're in Michigan Stadium, like, we're going to handle our business, and they've been doing that ever since. And so, I think we're going to see something on Saturday. What it looks like, how it ultimately transpires, nobody knows, but I'm sure we're going to see. I mean, it's the biggest rivalry, not just in college football, in all of sports, and I'll argue with anybody about that all day long. Biggest rivalry in any sport, anywhere. I think we're going to see the passion boil over. My passion might boil over.
Was it Fox? I don't think it wouldn't have been a good look for Fox since they have the game, but I saw a list today on social media that it came in 3rd in college football. behind Alabama, Auburn, and Army, Navy. I'm like, come on,
No way.
Like,
no
no,
way.
dude.
How many of those? How many? We've talked about it. Michigan 11-0 versus 11-0. It's only happened 4 times since the year 2000, and every single time has been Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah,
You know, this is they call it the game for a reason. This is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. That is a flawed poll. I don't care where it came from.
Yeah.
Fox Sports, ESPN, what'd they do? Sample 1,000 people in SEC country, probably.
They went to Paul Feinbaum's Thanksgiving dinner, took it
What do
past
you
the
think, Paul?
past the clipboard around 9 people with. I don't know. I just there's no way people believe that. There's just no way people believe that.
No.
I don't know. I also saw, and I wonder, this isn't an important one but we already know what it's going to look like. Michigan put out what uniforms they're going to be wearing. Big Game Blues going to make the return just like 2 years ago in the Big House. We all, I think, like that look a lot. Have you seen how people have been really pressing for the home color, like Ohio State in their red, Michigan in their blue? Like, what do you guys think about that? Would you take that on? Chris, you and I have talked about the uniform stuff a lot over the seasons. Like, we're pretty into that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be fine. I don't have any issue with it, and I love the all blue look from the University of Michigan. But there's just something about, I was hoping to see the classic look come back this year, the maize pants, the blue top,
Really?
Ohio State in their classics. Like, it's such a classic rivalry. Like, every time these two get together, like, I love to, and I might be aging myself here a little bit, but I like to get on YouTube and like listen to Keith Jackson, like, and like the old calls from, like, there's just that nostalgia that's there with it. And I really like the classic look, but I'm fine. I'm fine with the all blues, and I would certainly be fine if there was like a home and home type look.
They call it the Big House.
The Big House.
Yeah,
I'm all about tradition too. Like I love the Ohio State Michigan normal uniforms that they wear for the game. However, I think it would be kind of neat one-time thing. See all blue, see the red. Just
I
a
think
one-time thing.
Trent's considerably younger than both of us, but probably more mature and mentally older than us. Chris, is that fair? It's fair.
I would
It's debatable. It's debatable anyway. All right.
To be had.
Discussions to be had. Clayton he drops another one. We'll throw another one up there. Definitely Clayton will be in the house rushing the field again. Such an awesome view.
You know what? This is a good question that you bring up, Clayton. What do you think about rushing the field? Number 3 versus number 2. I saw that brought up on social media. Somebody from the Michigan contingent was like, I can't, we're rushing the field for sure. And they got pushback from a lot of Buckeyes saying, why would you do that? You're both top 5 ranked teams. Like, you're supposed to win a game like this. What do you think about it?
It's a massively huge game. I don't think rushing the field only has to deal with upsets.
Yeah.
It's a monumental game. So I think I'm fine with it. I don't know. Hadn't really given it much thought, but just as you were talking through it right there, I'm like, why would anybody have a problem with it? Dude, it's huge. It's way bigger than if like a small team just upsets a good team. Like, they might not even be
here
ranked.
You go, Zach Woodruff. Act like you've been there. Act like you've been there before. I don't.
Yeah,
but to it. I agree. It's a big game. Michigan's had to deal with a lot of shit this year. A lot of people questioning what they're about, calling them cheaters. How successful were you really the last 2 years? Like, all this nonsense. You don't have your head coach there on Saturday. Feels like they've got so much working against them. Yeah, if Michigan wins this game on Saturday, I would expect a good portion of the 110,000 in the building to make their way onto the field. And, everybody wants to relive that 2021 moment. It was magical. The snow was falling. Everybody was celebrating on the field. Like, everybody wants to capture that again. And if Michigan wins, I'm quite certain people will be on the field.
I mean, also, are the players just going to do a couple high fives and trot off? I mean, come on. Like, everybody's into it. They're into it.
You're going to see the student section going on the field first, and then you're going to see everybody else follow.
Yeah, I'll be there.
What will happen.
I will be on the field as well.
Very important comment here. Name looks a little bit familiar.
I'm not sure.
Well, let's look. Last I saw the cheapest ticket at this point was like $700. I really wanted my kids to go, my wife to be able to go, but you're talking about a trip to Disney. or Ohio State. They're just not into it yet as much as I am.
For those out there getting the audio only, this is one Dana Noop, Mrs. Noop, if you will. She would love to go to this.
Say, Trent, what's your response?
She would love to go to this game, but only if only her husband would buy a ticket.
If we didn't have a kid at home, man, I would totally be in. But priorities,
Trent will just be sitting up in the booth with me, just watching the peasants.
You see what children do? You see what children do?
Oh, man, that's good. All right. Are we ready to move on to some over-unders as we only have 15 minutes left to get to the hour mark?
Well, good luck. It's going to be a little bit longer than that. But yeah,
how long this goes. All right, Trent, you want to kick us off, man? New to the segment?
Yeah.
What's your first one?
Okay, so this kind of goes with my threes that I did for Michigan. All right, my first one is how many touchdowns does Michigan give up in the red zone?
Ooh.
Over under 1.5. Now, with that being said, I want to give you guys a couple stats. Michigan is the number 1 red zone team. They've allowed 6 touchdowns all year in the red zone, and Ohio State has scored 29 out of 47 trips to the red zone. So
what'd you have it set at? 1.5?
1.5.
I'll take the over. Yeah, my number was at 2, so I'll take the over.
I'll take the under, just because you said touchdowns, right? Not scoring.
Yeah, not scoring touchdowns.
I'll take the under. Just not to be defiant. But Michigan's been really good. There was how many games where they didn't even let someone into that area, or the 10 at least. But Michigan's been good at bending and not breaking. They've done that a lot this year. I know Ohio State's a different animal. Certainly, Marvin Harrison is a monstrous red zone threat. I'll take the under, but. This is their test. I mean, this is their test to see just how good they can be when someone gets close to the end zone and if they can keep them out.
Yeah, I'm going with the under myself on it. They've been so dominant in the red zone, just like you said, Brandon. It's been a bend not break type of team, and it's not like Ohio State. When they get down there, they score every single time. I mean, Michigan, I think they can hold their own. Granted, I think the Buckeyes can get a touchdown, but I really think that Michigan can hold them to under 2 in the red zone.
Yeah, I'm liking that one. That's Trent with the stats. Trent's on a little. He's cut from a little different cloth. A little bit. He comes in with the numbers and the facts, and I like it. It's a nice addition. Chris, you got a good one.
I'm always shooting from the hip here. I feel like I got to get up to date on my stats here. Yeah, I got one here. We've seen the connection go a little bit cold over the last few weeks. Would certainly love to see it fire back up on Saturday. We talked about this guy. I know early in the season, I thought he was going to, set all kinds of Michigan records. It has certainly cooled down here in the latter part of the season. But Roman Wilson, J.J. McCarthy, how many catches is Roman going to have on Saturday? I've got the over-under set at 4.5 for Roman Wilson. 4.5.
That's the exact number I said in my head before you said it. I think I'm taking the under. I think he gets 4 catches. I think he gets about 4 catches for, 60, 70, and maybe a score. I just think I think in order to take on a team like this, you've got to have some balanced approaches and do quite a few different things. I just don't know if you can feed a guy like Roman Wilson quite that much. So I'll take the over, but I do think it's close. I think it's like a 4 or 5 catch day for Roman. I'll take the under. Coming off of getting his bell rung. I don't know if that'll matter or not, but yeah. I'll take the under. Just barely.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under as well. Michigan likes to spread it around. You got Colston Loveland, AJ Barner, CJ, Samaj Morgan. You have so many weapons at JJ's disposal. And as much as he loves Roman Wilson, how healthy is he actually? And I just think that he's going to spread it around a little bit if he throws it.
You know what? I'm going to go against the grain here a little bit, fellas. I'm going to take the over. Roman Wilson, he's a senior. It's his last game in the big house. The guy was on fire earlier in the year. He obviously has chemistry with J.J. McCarthy. And, when you wear the number 1 jersey, there's a responsibility that comes along with that. And a lot of that responsibility falls in that final week of the regular season against Ohio State. And so I do think we're going to see J.J. target Roman Wilson quite a bit on Saturday. And I think he delivers. Now, I'm going to put the caveat out there that I'm assuming he's fully healthy and ready to go. But at 4.5, I'm going to take the over. I've got Roman Wilson at like 5 receptions for, I don't know, 97 yards and a touchdown. It's a solid afternoon for number one.
If
Just
he would
for
get
the-
that stat line, you'd have to feel pretty good about Michigan's chances, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just for the record, if anyone cares out there, Roman Wilson has gone over 4 catches just 2 times this year.
So he's due.
He did it in the opener. He had 6 for 78, and of course 3 touchdowns out of the gate against East Carolina. And just a couple weeks ago against Purdue, he had 9 for $143, which I believe were both career highs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And didn't score, but that's a very productive day. So yeah, do or maybe not. I don't know. That's an interesting number though, because he hovers right around that 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 3. Like that's where he's at usually.
Yeah.
And part of that is JJ. He's not winging it 50 times a game, so you got to make
playing in the third quarter.
that. There is some of that. There is some of that. All right, my first over under is I went all team. Just by the way, throwing that out there. Michigan as a team over under 3.5 rushing touchdowns. 3.5 rushing scores for the Wolverines tomorrow against Ohio State.
I'm going to take the over. Because I think Michigan's going to get down in the red zone. We've seen it before. You get close to the goal line, you hammer it away with Blake Corum until he inevitably gets in. I think Blake Corum's good for 2 touchdowns on Saturday. I think they get another rushing touchdown somewhere. So I'm going to take, what did you have it at?
3.5. So that's 3.5.
Well, I thought you said 2.5. 3.5 rushing touchdowns.
3.5.
I'm going to take the under. I've got him right at 3.
Yeah, I'm taking the under too. Partly because of my score prediction that we'll share later, but I like 2. I don't like 4. I think it's just too much.
Yeah.
This is, I one of my bold predictions was that Donovan will have a long one. I think I'm with Chris. I think Blake Corum, dude, he's about minus odds for 2 touchdowns every damn week. Like his numbers, if you're a betting person, are wild for him to score a touchdown. 3 feels, I'm with Chris, man. He was very torn. I think 3 feels safe. 4 feels like a bit of a stretch. And JJ's got to factor in somewhere too. I mean, if you think he's going to throw a touchdown or 2, I mean, I don't know if any of us have in Michigan scoring 7, 8 touchdowns. So you got to draw the line somewhere. I will take the under as well. I think 3 feels like the more comfortable number.
All right, so my turn.
Back to Trent.
Back to Trent.
All right, so this is kind of with your rushing thing, Brandon. How many rushing yards does Michigan get as a team? I've got the over under set at 180.5, and Michigan's averaging 171.
Man, is that all they're averaging? Is
That's what they're
171? Wow.
What's the over? What'd you pick for the over under?
180.5.
And this is rushing yards as a
rushing
team.
Yards, yep.
It's a good number.
It is a good number. I'm going to go under ever so slightly. I think they'll be above their season average, but I think they'll be below your number on Saturday. I think we're going to see a return back to more of a balanced offense from Michigan on Saturday. And because of that, I think they're going to be somewhere right around 175 rushing yards total. I could see Blake Corum being, right at 100, maybe a little bit over, and then whoever else gets in the mix making up for that extra 70, 75. So I'm going to take the under.
I am going to take the over by just a little bit. I mean, it's not a crazy number. That's why I'm cool with the over. I mean, Penn State was the best rushing defense in the country. Michigan eclipsed 200 against them in their house, and that's all they did. They held up signs basically saying, "We're running the ball," and they still got over 200. We know that's what they want to do. They would love nothing more than to pound Ohio State and dominate them up front and lean on that offensive line and run the ball. And I think, Chris has been. I'm surprised that Chris took the under because you've been pretty adamant about Blake Corum and his birthday and the senior day and finally gets a chance to play him. I'm curious what you would think Blake Corum will do by himself if you think
I think he's going to be right around 100. I think he's going to be right around 100, and I think everybody else will make up for, 70, 75 yards.
Okay, so I think it'll be just a little bit more. I mean, I don't see a 300-yard explosion tomorrow, but I think they'll go over 180. I think that's pretty safe for me.
Yeah, so
that's Buckeye predicting JJ possibly
Wow.
being the leading rusher.
That would be not a good day, I don't
Yeah, that
think.
probably, that's not a good thing.
Not ideal.
No.
So Ohio State only has allowed over 180 one time all year, and that was to Rutgers, who ran for 232. But Ohio State typically gets out to such big leads that teams try to throw the ball on them. So I'm also going with the over. I think that Michigan's going to try to keep running the ball like they have been, and Corum. I think Corum's going to have a huge game. He wasn't healthy. He didn't play last year. I think one snap, and then 2 years ago he was banged up, and it was the Hassan Haskins game. So I like the over. I think they'll be around 200, if not a little bit more.
Look at that.
Right on, I like it. That would be a solid afternoon. That would give me a lot of confidence in the Michigan Wolverines. I'm going to take it back to the passing game. JJ McCarthy, we've talked about the ankle. We've talked about the rushing game a little bit. Want to talk about JJ through the air. I've got him at 22 and a half attempts. 22 and a half attempts on Saturday. You taking the over under on 22 and a half.
Brandon, go ahead.
I will take, that's another pretty good number because I think it's going to be right around there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I will say, how many snaps?
Keep in mind, he threw it 8 times against Penn
Over.
8 times against Penn State.
Over by a hair. By a hair. I did a quick little math, 55, 58 plays. Blake, 24 attempts for JJ. I think he's, like I said, I mean, anything 2 or 3 north or south of 20, I'd be like, yeah, that's right in the ballpark. So I'll take the over because I do think Ohio State is going to have enough sense about them and enough skill and talent and size to take away the run when they choose to, and that's gonna result in JJ throwing it a little bit here and there. I mean, I still think Michigan's gonna have success on the ground, but I think when Ohio State wants to say like, all right, we're gonna put 8 or 9 in the box, they'll probably be able to do that with some effectiveness, and that means JJ's gonna throw it a little bit. I think it's gonna be like right around there, but I'll take the over by a throw or 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll have 24, 25. It's going to be really close. I think Michigan's going to keep trying to run the ball like they've been doing. Yeah, 32 times in a row against Penn State. Even last week against Maryland, we seen all kinds of runs. I feel like Sherrone Moore is going to try to keep doing the same game plan. However, I mean, it's Ohio State. You're going to have to open up a little bit. I think JJ, 24, 25 sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm reluctantly going to take the under. When I thought about this question, the first number that came to my mind was 21 attempts, and I think that's where he's going to be. I could see him finishing the day 16 or 17 of 21. And then somebody brought it up in the comments. You got to factor in Jack Tuttle's probably going to be playing a majority of the fourth quarter because Michigan's going to be well ahead at that point. So I'm going to take the under. I've got JJ at 21 completions. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing if he's well over that. You know what I mean? Like if JJ's up around 30 attempts, 35 attempts, is that a good thing for Michigan? Or does that, if you could look into your crystal ball and you see on Saturday, JJ had 35 attempts, do you feel good about that? Or do you feel like maybe they had to force the issue a little bit?
Well, I think it depends. Is he
do you feel better about 35 or 21?
21.
Yeah,
probably 21, but if he's dealing and dicing up the defense, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's ask that question. If the passing game is so overly effective, do we see 32 throws in a row? I don't think we'd ever see that. No. But that is an interesting question.
I feel much better about 21 than I do about 35.
I did too, right off rip when you asked me. But then, I mean, if he's just lighting it up and just dicing them, and they're really missing Lathan Ransom back there, and he's just carving them. I mean, the tight ends are really involved, and you're just moving the chains.
To me, 35 attempts would mean that Michigan is a little bit out of character, that they're having to do some things they would rather not do. And we've seen with Sherrone Moore, he's more than comfortable running the ball as much as they possibly can. And so I think at 35 attempts, you're seeing Michigan have to force the issue a little bit.
Chris, let me ask you. This is great. This is a great way to tie this together right here. Did you look? Do you know how many times he threw it last year against Ohio State?
No, but 24.
24, dude. He was 12. He was 12 of 24, so obviously the percentage was down a bit. He had the 3 monster touchdowns. I mean, all 3 of them were long ones. The long one to Colston Loveland right out of halftime, and then, of course, the 2 to Cornelius Johnson.
I think the percentage goes up, but the attempts go down.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, and you have a healthy dose of Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, Khalil Mullings.
12 of 24 for 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Donovan Edwards, 22 carries for 216 and two huge touchdowns at the end. So that
decent day for number 7.
That's an interesting, so in Michigan, back to Trent's question, Michigan ran for 252 on the Buckeyes last year in Columbus. So, I mean, yeah, if you can get to those numbers, I think you'd take them all day long.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. Man, looking at those numbers just makes you smile, doesn't it?
It does.
This is a nice thing. All right. We talked a little bit about him. Kyle McCord, not the most mobile, not the most fleet of foot. And if he's dealing with something that's causing him to limp, you would think that's an even better situation for Michigan. So again, all team numbers for me. Michigan over under sack total 3.5.
Sack time. I do miss that from Brandstatter, by the way.
3.5 sacks for the Wolverines against McCord and the Buckeyes.
Chris, go ahead if you.
3.5. My head says under, but this week I got to go with my heart. I'm going to go over. I think that defensive front is going to be extremely aggressive. Yeah, Kyle McCord is not the most fleet of foot. You've got Braden McGregor, you got Jalen Harrell, you got Chris Jenkins, you got Kenneth Grant. You've got some dudes up front that can make for a long day on the quarterback, and you got some question marks on the Ohio State offensive line. When you put all that together, I think the Michigan Wolverines get 4 sacks on Saturday. Give me the over.
Yeah, I like it. Over. Going back to my article that I wrote about the 3 keys, Ohio State's tackles, they both allowed like 4 or 5 sacks each. They both allowed like 11 pressures. Their center also has allowed like 11 pressures on McCord. McCord can't run. So, yeah, 4 or 5 sacks. I like it.
I'm also going to take the over. I mean, you talk about Michigan's depth up front. You rotate bodies in there. We've all been big fans of Braden McGregor and Jalen Harrell and Chris Jenkins up the middle, Kenneth Grant pushing the pocket up the middle, Mason Graham. And then whenever, Jesse Minter wants to sprinkle in an exotic blitz, he's got some really athletic, fast linebackers who can do it. Mikey Sainristil has been phenomenal as a blitzer all his entire career since he switched over to the defensive side of the ball. I'm with you guys. Over 3.5 sacks. McCord is not an escapable kind of guy. That's just not his game. The only thing that gives me pause is because they know that. And it'll be 1, 2, 3, boom, get it out. 1, 2, 3, you're in trouble, throw it to 18. I mean, there's ways to combat that, and it's getting rid of the ball quickly, and that's certainly something that if I was Ohio State, I would have drilled into Kyle McCord's head this week. So we'll see, but I'll take the over as well. And that bodes well for Michigan if they get to him that many times, I think.
No doubt.
All right, so last year we seen a couple real long passes to Cornelius Johnson. Tomorrow, what is the longest pass Michigan is going to complete? I've got the over-under set at 50.5. So far, the longest to a receiver has been 50 yards to Cornelius Johnson this season.
I'll take the under immediately.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard the number, my mind went to the under. I don't think we're going to see a ton of big chunk plays through the air from Michigan on Saturday. I think that's more likely to come on the ground. So for that reason, I'll take the under.
I will too. Before he spit the number out, I was in like the 30s, and then he said 50, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go under. Obviously, I don't know if it was lightning striking, but dude, those 2 passes to Cornelius last year were just out of nowhere. And so I don't know if you can bank on something like that happening again. Yes, Roman Wilson has the propensity to take a short one and make it into a long one, but I'll take the under as well, Chris. I'm with you, under 50.
Yeah, I also went with the under. I was trying to compile some stats there with it. Like Ohio State, the longest pass they've given up is 36 yards all year. I mean, obviously Michigan, they have the capability of throwing those deep bombs, but how healthy is JJ? That's a big thing. I mean, how is Michigan going to attack the Ohio State defense? Are they going to run the ball primarily? Or are they going to get their tight ends involved more? I think they can obviously throw a 75-yarder, 60-yarder, but yeah, I'll go with the under too.
All right. Look, this is a guy that I think we're all a little bit concerned about on Saturday. We think to a certain extent he's going to get his, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Michigan defends him, how they choose to do it. But I've got Marvin Harrison Jr. receptions on Saturday set at 6.5 on Saturday. 6.5 for number 18, first round draft pick, the best receiver by far Michigan will face this year.
I'm going to
6.5.
go 6.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go over. I think that, over. I think that Kyle McCord's going to force feed the ball to Marvin Harrison.
He has
Yeah,
to.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, they
Yeah.
have a couple weapons. You know, Stover's good, Egbuka's good, but Marvin Harrison is the dude.
But you got to figure Michigan's going to know that, right? Going into it.
But I think that Ryan Day will be able to scheme up enough, whether it's short, completion can be a 1-yard bubble screen.
Yeah.
Like that's so I feel like they're going to force feed him the ball however they can.
I was checking it. I'm also going to take. Am I? I am, and here's why. I'm taking the over. Well, Notre Dame. He's actually had his biggest days against the best teams, which to me speaks to what Trent was just talking about. When you're playing a good team, you got to use your best guys. He's their best guy. It's not close. He's gone over 6.5 4 times, so it's not rare. He had 7 grabs against Michigan State. He had 11 against Penn State. That's his career season.
I would have 7 grabs against Michigan State.
Fair. He had 8 against Maryland, again, one of their early tests, and then he had 7 against Youngstown State. So his 2 highest outputs were against Maryland and Penn State. That's the 2 best teams they've played besides Notre Dame. I'll take yes. I think it'll be like 7. Be like 7 grabs. And to Trent's point, I mean, McCord hasn't been super sharp, but if you put it anywhere near that dude, he catches it. So, yeah, I think they're going to try to throw it to him a lot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an incredible challenge for the Michigan secondary, for Will Johnson, for guys like Mike Sainer. I mean, the whole secondary in general. When I thought about this question, I had his number right at 6, and I think if they can hold him to 6, I think that spells good news for Michigan. So I'm going to take the under 6 receptions for Marvin Harrison Jr., and they limit the big plays, which is going to be the most important thing. Trent, I agree with what you said. There's a number of different ways to get him the ball, try to get him involved, but I think Michigan's been planning and preparing for this for a long time. They know who the problem is on offensive. It's obviously Travion Henderson and Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think out of those 2, you got to contain Marvin Harrison Jr. You can't give up big chunk plays through the air, and I think they do that.
He's also scored a touchdown in 7 straight games and has scored a touchdown in 9 of 11 this year and has 2 touchdowns in 4 games. So 5 games. So dude's good. He's a good player. And they're going to try to force feed him. And I think that's smart. I mean, that's what I would do if I had a kid like that on my team. So, that's an interesting number though. 6.5. That's a great game for a receiver.
Yeah.
But I think he'll go slightly north of that. All right. Is it my turn? Last one for me, I believe.
Yeah.
We've talked about the pressure that we think that Michigan should and needs to get on Kyle McCord. I don't know if it's, the weather doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue. I don't believe
it's for anybody out there asking who's going to be at the game, who's curious, high of 38 degrees on Saturday, no snow in the forecast. Didn't really see how the wind situation is, but, slightly chilly. It's November football in Michigan.
There you go. I don't think Travion Henderson is fumbled, prone to fumble necessarily. Trent probably knows more. He's had all the stats all night. Thank you, Trent. But I'll say Michigan, I will set the number for takeaways, fellas. Takeaways for Michigan at 1.5. Oh. Do they turn the Buckeyes over twice?
Immediately over. Wow. I think they get 2 interceptions, and then you might see a forced fumble in there. So I'm going to take the over. I think, and I think maybe Trent and I were talking about this. I can't remember who I was talking with it about, but I think Michigan gets 2 interceptions at least on Saturday. I think they get one early, and I think they get one late when McCord is forcing the issue. And then you throw a strip sack in there somewhere at some point in the game, and I think we're over the. You put it at 1.5 or 2.5?
1.5. Yep.
Yeah, I'm comfortably over 1.5.
Yeah, Ohio State's averaging 1 turnover a game, and this is a big game. McCord, he hasn't played, and I realize he played Notre Dame, but Michigan's a different animal. Defense is a different animal. I think, at least 2 interceptions for Kyle McCord, and that's not counting a possible strip sack or Henderson possibly fumbling the ball. But yeah, give me over.
You got to think Mike Sainristil's good for at least one pick on Saturday, right? It just
Feels
feels
That's
like
what it
he's-
seems like anymore, man.
He's that kind of guy where he's going to be right place, right time. You can count on 0 to get at least 1 for you.
Maybe Chip Trainum, former linebacker, puts one on the turf. Maybe Mikey Sainer still punches one out of Cade Stover's
Dude
hands
looks like a
after
linebacker.
he catches it this time.
You know what?
I don't know.
I'm concerned about Henderson. What's his last name? How'd you say it? The former linebacker.
Oh, Trainum, Chip Trainum.
Yeah, train him. I'm a little concerned with him tomorrow. Like there's just something about him that makes me a little bit nervous. If there's an X factor in the game tomorrow outside of Harrison Jr. and outside of Henderson, I think it's going to be him. I think he's going to
Look,
cause some problems tomorrow.
It's another kid that Michigan wanted 2 separate times. They wanted that kid out of high school, and then when he transferred from Arizona State.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a talented player. Like I said, he played linebacker. Now he's playing running back. You know, Jim Harbaugh likes dudes like that. He's had a couple of them himself. So yeah, I'm much more scared of Travion Henderson in terms of like making a game-breaking play, but Trainum's the kind of guy that can combat, what Michigan might be doing a little
Like
bit.
on a
grind
3rd
it
and
out.
3,
Yeah.
like extending drives, having that
Yeah.
type of impact on the game. That's my concern. Is if Michigan can't get that Ohio State offense off the field, I think it's going to be with a guy like that.
Yeah.
Do you think Ohio State trots him out there a whole lot with a healthy Travion Henderson?
I do. I
Yeah,
do because
okay.
I think they're going to be in a lot of 3rd and short situations, and I think rather than run Henderson into a wall, I think you're going to trot him out there and try to get as much mileage out of him as you possibly can.
Yeah, he'll play. He's kind of built for games like this. Late
Yeah.
November, cold, like Chris said, short yardage. Need to set the tone a little bit. Yeah, I think he'll be out there. I mean, he's their Mullings, right? I mean, he's the same. That's what they use him for. A little change of pace. Do the dirty work, pick up the short yardage plays. But again, maybe a little more prone to fumbling. Not as many reps. Former linebacker. We'll see. So I'm done with mine. Is everybody else done too?
That's it. That's 3 apiece.
Hour and 10 minutes in, we've got predictions, and we're going to get on out of here and see what happens early morning tomorrow. And we're going, oh, dude, I just can't wait. I can't wait to pull up. I can't wait to feel the energy of the stadium, how many people are going to be out there.
I was going to say, it's crazy when you think about it. This is not an overstatement. Ann Arbor tomorrow is the center of the college football world. You've got
Correct.
College Game Day. You've got Fox Big Noon Kickoff. You've got Barstool setting up. You've got a fan fest going on. You got Michigan, Ohio State, top 5 teams going at it. It's just, again, if you're a Michigan football fan, even if you're watching on TV, don't take days like tomorrow for granted, because it's you think about how many other teams there are out there to be a fan of, or to cover, or go in a stadium and watch on Saturday. The fact that you get to take this one in and be a part of it, it's special, and it's going to change dramatically next year. So soak it in as much as you possibly can. I know we're planning on getting there early. We're going to be out walking around, taking in the sights and scenes just like everybody else.
Absolutely. Oh, real quick, before we get to our predictions, we had one more super chat right here from Derek Thomas again. Any chance that we see a different, kind of an unknown player emerge as part of the game plan like we did last year? Kalel Mullings had the jump pass. He hadn't played hardly at all at that point last year. Now he's a much more known name. Tyler Morris has been out there, but he hasn't had a big game or anything like that. Alex Orji, Chris, is it time to unleash? You don't think so? You don't think so at all?
As much as I would love to see it, my gut says no.
It's hard to predict that, Derek, but I mean, I see where your head's at. I mean, nobody thought Cornelius Johnson's having 2 huge touchdown catches, right?
Well,
Nobody.
I mean, if you had to put money on one of the 3 as the guy to emerge and make the biggest impact, where's your money going? Because I'll tell you, Tyler Morris is an intriguing candidate there. Haven't really seen him break out too much this year. The expectation was pretty high early in the year. JJ McCarthy mentioned the connection he's got with Morris. They played high school football together. It would be a good day. Be a good day for him to have a breakout day for sure.
Is this going to be the Darius Clemens breakout game that we've all been waiting for?
Maybe.
I mean, could you pick Colston Loveland even though he's a known guy, commodity? I mean, he hasn't had a huge game. I mean, is this you find him twice in the end zone or something where he has you never know. I mean, he had the big.
I think it would be fair to say it for AJ Barner too. These guys, they've been part of the offense, but it's not like they've had. I wouldn't call it necessarily a breakout game, a massive game, and I think they'd certainly be on the table.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You wonder if it's going to work that way. Do
you think? Do you think? Forget who it is. Do you think we see that on Saturday? Do you think we see one of those guys emerge that hasn't had that game this year? Do we see that on Saturday? Like, holy shit, that guy just had the game of his life. And it's not Blake Corum. It's not JJ McCarthy. It's not anybody that you would expect.
Samaj Morgan qualify, true freshman, get a couple big plays, maybe a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think if you base on what we've all talked about, we feel like it's going to be the likely candidates, right? Your Blake Corums, your JJ McCarthy, but
Will Johnson.
That's what we've. Yeah, maybe a defensive play.
I mean, he's been good this year, but
so that's a thought-provoking question, Derek. I like that.
We see Will Johnson in the punt return. Take one back to the house. Number 2 throwback, Desmond Howard. Or I'm sorry, Charles Woodson. What a fuck up on my part. It's the man Mosa.
The man Mosa.
I corrected it.
It's getting the best of him. All right. Anybody want to volunteer to go first for their prediction? Again, I don't know if you guys have seen them all. I put the story up a little bit ago. We're very close again. So I don't think there's anybody that we need to be like, all right, dude, go first and get your nonsense out of the way. It's nothing like that. We're all pretty close. So anybody want to volunteer?
We'll go in order of the article, the way it was put out. I'll get us started off here. And so look, I don't think this is going to be the type of game where either team is going to score a lot of points on Saturday. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be one of those games that's won in the trenches. I don't think we're going to see something like we've seen the last 2 years where it's Michigan 40-something, Ohio State 20-something. I think this is going to be a lot closer on Saturday, as much as I don't want to see it. But I've got my final score, Michigan 27, Ohio State 17, a 10-point win for the Wolverines at home, and then you get ready for Indy.
I also have a 10-point win, just shifted slightly. It's just hard to pick against Michigan when you've seen what they've done to this team the last 2 years. I know they're not running the ball quite as well, but I put up 5 reasons why. I think they have the better quarterback. I think they're more confident. I think they have more motivation, especially given the fact that Jim Harbaugh is not there. They're also playing at home, and damn it, I can't remember the last one, but they were 5 good ones, all right? I think Michigan is going to have just the right formula. I think they've figured something out. They know how to punch this team. They know that this team can fold. Right? They're in their head. I mean, there's no doubt about it. After the way the game has gone the last 2 years, Michigan's got the horses. They've got the experience. They've got the depth. Give me the Wolverines 31-21. 10-point win.
I've got a little bit closer than both of you guys. I don't
like that.
I've got it 24-20. Michigan, and if Jim Harbaugh was on the sideline, it would be a little wider.
Yeah,
but I think in my article that I wrote, I've got it between two things: the quarterback battle. JJ definitely wins that, but then both defenses, they're both really, really solid down in the red zone, and I feel like that area is so important for this game. I think both offenses can move the ball on each other. However, who schemes up better plays down there? And I think Michigan, I know that Michigan's got they have the veteran leadership. They want this for their coach. It's going to be a slugfest that I think Michigan's going to pull out in the end. 24-20 Wolverines.
That's that game you wanted, Chris, right there, right? That's the one.
That's exactly what you wanted.
But then I hear it and I don't want it.
So you
I don't even want 27-17. I saw somebody put 51-20 something. Like I just don't see that happening. But
my final reason of the 5 was that Michigan has the better O-line. And I think that's huge in a game like this, and I don't really think you can debate that. Trent, you pointed some things out. Ohio State's got some problems. Is it both tackles and center?
Yeah, both tackles and center. They allow a lot of pressures. So I want to say Josh Fryer. I think he's the right tackle. He's allowed like 6 or 7 sacks on his own.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's what it was. Those are my 5 reasons: better quarterback, better O-line, playing at home, more confident, and the motivation. All that, no Harbaugh, all this. Everybody says there's no way they can win. They're not cheating anymore. They can't win. Like that's a lot for players to hear, man.
How's this for an over/under? Excuses for Ohio State after they get their ass kicked on Saturday. 1.5. We know one's already coming. Is there another one tucked in there? Do we have a couple excuses already locked and loaded for the Buckeye fans on Saturday?
They're going to come up with anything and everything that they possibly can if they don't win this game.
I mean, if they lose, they're going right to the cheating thing.
Oh, 100%.
Right away.
They understand the signals.
But How
So
can
look,
they?
we
how
got
is that
way over hot, over on 1.5 excuses. Yeah, I'd say Ryan Day's good for 1.
How is the cheating thing still even a thing? Like, it's not happening
Well,
anymore.
you know they will, though.
Well,
Because you still got people on staff that know about it.
fellas, I can't wait.
It goes deep. It goes deep, Brandon.
We will be up early. We
Yes.
will be at Chris's house at 8. We'll be at the stadium before we can even get in, and we're just going to be taking it in. If you see us, give us a brat, give us a shot, give us whatever you want. We'll take it.
A shot on Saturday.
I like that. I didn't even mean to do that. I like it. I was trying to think of a third one. Give us a brat, a shot, and a cot that I could take a nap on after I have 9 of them. How about that? I don't know. I was trying to think of something else that rhymed, and I just didn't have one fast enough. Anyway, you got excitement? 1 to 10? Is it just already a 10?
25, man.
I don't know. I feel weird. I kind of feel numb to it. I'm ready to get there and have it happen.
I want to be there too. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We will be. I would like to think we're going to do something tomorrow because win or lose, it's massive and it's a talking point, and we'll have some things to say. But again, there's also a lot of other stuff going on the field. Post-game press conference is kind of a big deal tomorrow. Is Harbaugh going to be there or is he not? I don't know. So you'll see us when you see us. It's either going to be tomorrow for a short time or Monday, where we'll have a lot to talk about because it's either going to be getting ready for the Big Ten Championship or what the hell happens now with everything that's going on. So big show on Monday.
Rick Bungie is not a fan of the closeout music here. The music from Rick. You know what, Rick? Never mind. I'm not going to say it.
I'm going to say that his last name is Bung because it sounds funnier, like bunghole. And we're going to go ahead and get out of here on that.